Welcome back to another Team Kitchen Fable video. My name is Cody. I'm going to be taking you through the Fai Blitz deck that we have here. As you all know from the recent release of Uprising, Fai has been a very hot and on fire hero. Yes, pun intended. So Fai is a Draconic Ninja hero, and his strength is a go wide strategy, a very aggressive strategy, but most recently he's been a combo deck. And so I think in the shortened game of Blitz, I think this combo is extremely impressive and very frightening for most opponents to face. We're going to take through a few seconds and walk through on how this combo is set up and some of the integral parts of the deck. Again, this is a Blitz deck, so we have 40 cards in the main, 11 cards in the equipment and weapon slots, and we're going to go ahead and just jump right in and start with the equipment. In this top row here is going to be the pieces of equipment that we're going to use for mostly the combo variant of the sideboarding options you have for the equipment slides. So it's going to start off with one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. So this is your ninja equipment headpiece. What this equipment really allows you to do is go find the finishing piece of your combo once you hit with an attack action card. So once you hit with an attack action card, you destroy the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. You search your deck for a card that's an attack action card with 2 or less power. You get to banish it, then you can play it this turn. Most frequently, you're searching for cards such as Lava Burst or potentially Salt in the Wound. This deck is going to play 2 Lava Bursts and 1 Salt in the Wound. Next is going to be your chest piece, Blossom of Spring. This is just simply a generic chest piece. If you watched our most recent video on the equipment tier list, this actually got given by Steven a bobble tier, and yet here I am showcasing how strong it is. So go watch the other video and leave a comment on that video as well as this one on why you think Steven was wrong. But this Blossom of Spring, what it allows you to do is gain 1 resource without having to use a card from hand. Why that's so important is in this variation of the deck, you really want to be using that 1 resource on your powerful pieces such as Art of War, or possibly Spreading Flames, or even a card such as Belittle, without having to use a card from your hand to start your chain link and start your chain off. Very important part of the combo side of the deck. Next, we would be playing Stubby Hammers, but of course Stubby Hammers is suspended in Blitz, so we fall to the next best piece, which is Tiger Stipe Shukos. It's a 2-block ninja equipment arms that gives the second attack action card with 2 or less base power you play each turn a +1 buff, and also that damage that would be dealt can't be prevented. So things such as Oldham's defense reaction, Prism's shields, they can't prevent that damage. It doesn't usually come up too often, but can come up in certain situations. I like to run Snapdragon Scalers. The reason I run Snapdragon Scalers is not because I need to give most of the attacks in the deck go again, but specifically certain attacks. So I'm running 2 snatches in the deck, 2 red snatches that is, and that's primarily the target for the Snapdragon Scalers, but when you grab a hand where you actually have one of the finishers already, such as Lava Burst or Salt in the Wound, you can actually use your Mask of the Pouncing Lynx to go find another finisher and then snap your Snapdragon Scalers on that finisher, such as snapping it on Lava Burst to do a second Lava Burst or possibly a Salt in the Wound following. So that can be some really big damage at the end of your chain, all thanks to Snapdragon Scalers. The other pieces of the equipment that we bring in for some of the more grindy matchups, some of the matches that we think that we're not going to be able to combo off as consistently, we bring in Mask of the Momentum. Of course, Mask is an extremely strong ninja headpiece. Gives you a draw effect when an attack action card you control hits and is the 3rd or higher chain link in a row to hit. And then you draw a card. For some of the decks where you need some more defense, possibly Bravo, possibly Oldham, some of the decks that are just coming in for a little bit more damage than we think that we can handle. Possibly you want to consider this in Rhinar, just because if Rhinar goes first and on turn 1, draws a really aggressive hand, and you're left but nothing but your equipment to block with, sometimes this can be the life-saving piece of the puzzle that you need to stay alive and get to your, even your first turn of the game. Flamescale Furnace is the chess piece. It's a 2-block with temper, and as a once per turn instant, which you're not really using in this deck, you can pitch a resource and gain a resource for each red card in your pitch zone, only if you've played a red card this turn. And then we also have Tunic as an option for another chess piece option for the games that we think that we're actually going to go extremely long, for games that we think that we're not going to be able to combo off. Although this very rarely comes in, I think that Tunic was just an extra slot that I had that comes in when I didn't have anything else to bring in, to be honest. I don't use Tunic very often. And we're also bringing in 3 pieces of Arcane Barrier, or 3 pieces of Null Rune. The Robe, the Null Rune Gloves, and the Tide Flippers. Tide Flippers is great because it still has utility inside the deck for giving attacking card with 2 or less base power go again as an attack reaction. All these, of course, block for 0. And the weapon we choose inside this deck is the Searing Ember Blade. It is a 3 attack, costs 2 to attack with, and gains go again if you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links. A very important piece of the puzzle of extending Draconic Chain Links and being able to activate Fai's ability, which is grabbing that Phoenix Flame from the graveyard. Of course, we start with 1 in the graveyard due to his ability, and as a once per turn instant, we can pay 3 resources to return a Phoenix Flame from our graveyard to our hand. This ability costs 1 less for each Draconic Chain Link we control, and getting Draconic Chain Links in this deck is an extremely easy thing to do. Usually we just need 1 blue, and we come in with a starter, swing the blade, possibly even pay the 1 extra floating there to grab the Phoenix Flame if we don't have more Draconic attacks, but that's very unlikely to happen. So the way that I broke down the way this deck is kind of sorted into its pieces is I have all your red cards on the left-hand side of the deck. That are going to be your 1-cost starters, 0-cost starters, connectors, value card, and finishers. Those are all your reds. We're playing 4 yellows, Salt in the Wound, 2 Art of Wars, 1 Rising Resentment yellow, and then we're playing 9 blues. Most of our blues we chose as value blues, blues that block for 3. The only 2 blues that don't block for 3 are going to be your 2 blue Minnowisms. All the rest of them are going to be block 3 blues. So starting it off, we're going to get into very high level of the combo pieces that you're really looking for to make this combo work with the pieces of equipment that we've chosen. So Spreading Flames and or Art of War are going to be the first pieces that I typically look for when trying to make this Fai deck combo off and come in for 25, 30 plus damage. So for Spreading Flames, it's a 1-cost 3 attack with go again. But more importantly, the secondary effect here, the Draconic attacks that you control have +1, while their base power is less than the number of Draconic Chain Links that you control. So this doesn't start to buff your attacks until you start to get out to that usually most likely third or fourth chain link before you start to receive that bonus, unless you're able to sprinkle in some attacks that are lower base power, such as your Phoenix Flames or possibly your Inflame. If it's not Spreading Flames that you're looking for Art of War. You're trying to get this card into Arsenal, and then go to your next turn, block with any pieces of equipment that you're able to, and start your turn with possibly 4 or 5 cards, and then that's when you activate your Blossom of Spring to then play either Art of War or play Spreading Flames. That kicks the combo off. After that point, you're typically looking for a bunch of your 0-cost go-again attacks and or your connectors. So down on the line below are 0-cost starters. These can start the chain. They can also be played directly after things like Spreading Flames, or can be the first attack on the chain after you play Art of War. So our 0-cost starters, we're going to be Rising Resentment, Ronin Renegade, and Brand of Cinderclaw. All these attacks have something very in common. They're all red, they all cost 0, they all have go again, and they all attack for 3. Rising Resentment effect is actually somewhat relevant in the deck, and if you start out with a Spreading Flames or another attack of sorts, this Rising Resentment can help pay for things on the on-hit ability, for things such as Belittle, Flamecall Awakening, mounting anger, or even spreading flames itself. So its on hit ability is that you can banish an attack action card from your hand with cost less than the number of Draconic chain links you control, and if you do, it costs 1 less to play. So if we're playing this as our second attack on the chain, and it's our second Draconic attack, and this hits, we can actually banish things like mounting anger and give it a cost reduction, so it comes in for 0, or banish things like Flame Call Awakening, or even you could banish a belittle even to play it for free, and it's becomes a 0 for 3 go again. On Flame Call Awakening, 0 for 3 go again, or Mounting Anger is 0 for 4 go again. Of course, if that's Rising Resentment hits. But most commonly, we're looking to start these chains off with these attacks. Then we have connectors. So this is things like Blaze Headlong, Lava Vein Loyalty. I consider an Inflame a connector, although it can be used as a starter. So these are just great value attacks that come in the middle of our chain. So Blaze Headlong is a 0 for 4 go again if you've played another red card. Doesn't even have to be Draconic. Lava Vein Loyalty is a 0 for 3 go again if you control 2 or more Draconic chain links. Great thing about Lava Vein Loyalty is it blocks for 3, so if you're going second, a lot of times you're blocking with that card if you can. Inflame can be a great connector because if you have 2 Phoenix Flames in the graveyard, then Inflame can grab 1 for you if you've played another red card. But more importantly, it just has natural go again. So if you're drawing this off of Art of War, or you're drawing it off of Mask Momentum, it's just another way to extend the chain out further. And if you're getting buffed by things such as Art of War or Spreading Flames or even Tiger Stipe Shukos, it's just another attack that has go again naturally and costs 0. Very consistent theme of the deck. Moving on into the value cards and finishers, Belittle is a great enabler in the deck. It allows you to, essentially Belittle is kind of like a quasi-yellow or quasi-blue because it can go grab you those resources. And if you're using Belittle off of your Blossom of Spring, it becomes such a great attack in the deck because it can get you the resources you need to really pay for the things that you need, such as your Syrian Emberblade for 2, or pay for your Art of War plus additional things, or possibly your attack looks like Belittle into grabbing a Minnowism to set up and then playing a Command and Conquer. Just a great attack overall. It's a really great value attack. Moving on to Snatch, again, like I talked about already with the Snapdragon Scalers, Snatch is an attack that I'm looking to use Scalers on specifically because it's going to come up probably in the middle of the chain somewhere. I'm not looking to finish the chain off with Snatch, although in certain matches and certain circumstances you want to play out your attacks, dump your hand, and then finish with a Snatch, so they have a tough decision to make whether they want to give you an arsenal or not. But primarily I'm looking to put a lot of pressure on them to block this Snatch in the middle of the chain, snap at the Sailors, and just keep on going. And oftentimes the Snatch is coming in for 5 because of Art of War, or possibly if you've been able to sequence your attacks properly enough, you can even make Snatch a Draconic attack with Brand of Cinder Claw. If you play Brand of Cinder Claw first, the next attack gains the Draconic ability or Draconic type. More value reds. Lava Burst we've already talked about as a finisher. We're looking to finish these attack chains with Lava Burst because it comes in for 0 for, it's a 0 for 2 as its base, but if it's played as Chainlink 4 or higher, don't even have to be Draconic Chainlinks. It gets a +3 buff automatically. A lot of times this is getting buffed by Tiger Stipe Shukos as the second attack with 2 or less base power we play, and it's also getting buffed from Spreading Flames and or Art of War. So a lot of times this thing is coming in for 6, 7, possibly more if you've drawn the right string of cards. Of course, we have our 2 Phoenix Flames that we play. There's consideration to only play 1. I still think it's strong to play 2. I think 2 is the right choice here because even if we draw this off our Art of War, this is usually coming in for 0 for 2 or 0 for 3. And it's just, again, another 0 for go again attacks. As long as it costs 0 and has go again, this deck typically likes it. I play 1 Double Strike. Again, I don't want to get caught with too many attacks that don't have natural go again. And if you already have been buffed by a couple of other items on the chain, this Double Strike's coming in for 2 or 3 go again, and then 2 or 3 go again. So it's like it's a very valuable attack in the deck just because it can come in twice, and if it's receiving buffs, it's just being buffed twice on the chain. And if you're in a match where you're playing Mask Momentum, you're probably threatening mask twice in that turn that you have double strike. Salt in the Wound is a great finisher. A lot of times we're looking for that Salt in the Wound off of Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. Gains +1 for each attack that's hit this combat chain. So, I mean, if you're getting really crazy with it really wide, the Salt in the Wound's coming in for 0 for 7, 0 for 6, 0 for 8. You get really crazy depending on how wide your chain links get. Art of War, one of the great power enablers of the deck. It's a 1 cost. It gives all your attacks +1 most likely. You're almost never choosing Go Again on it because all your attacks already have Go Again, and you're usually typically choosing Banish and draw 2 cards to grab more Go Again attacks. You're typically looking to banish things such as additional blues or attacks that are just not as valuable on the chain. Sometimes you're banishing Lava Burst because you're just going to go get it with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx or get your second copy of it, that is. So Art of War is just a really great piece of this deck that just makes it pop and come in strong. I play 1 Rising Resentment yellow, mainly because I just needed more attacks that had Go Again, and also its on-hit ability is actually somewhat relevant when it's in the middle of the chain and it comes in as the second or higher attack to come in. Then you can, of course, use its on-hit ability of reducing your additional cost, reducing your cost of your additional attacks further on down the chain. Again, the Spreading Flames, if you're able to set that up properly, Mounting Anger, Flamecall Awakening, Belittle, and heck, even Command and Conquer can get played if you come up with a Rising Resentment for the 3rd Draconic Chain Link and it hits, you ban it Command and Conquer and play it for free. Doesn't happen too often, but can. The blues are pretty standard. A lot of them are not Draconic, so I have 2 blue flying kicks. Really, they're just looking to be blue block for 3s. But in certain circumstances, when you're using your Belittle to start out your chain and you possibly have another blue in hand already, then you can use those additional resources that you're going to have. You're going to spend 2 on Syrian Emberblade most likely, but then you're going to have a lot of floating resources around at the end of the chain, and that's where you can just actually use one of your blue attacks to come in for a decent 5 damage. And then at the end of a chain where you've come in for 12 damage or 13 damage already, ending with 5 is sometimes just a backbreaker for the opponent to handle. Cinder Sending Devotion, it's another blue that has some utility in the deck, which is it's a 1 cost, but if you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links, it gets Go Again. So sometimes you have extra floating resources around because of Belittle Minimalism, or you've drawn extra blues, and you can just get the additional value out of Cinder Skin by playing it for its 2 Go Again ability, but most likely you're pitching this card or using it to block with. 2 Lava Vein Loyalties. There's 0 for 1 Go Agains if you control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links. Typically not playing it, but sometimes you do, depending upon what you draw and how you what cards comprise your hand on the turn that you want to really pop off. I play 2 Blue Minimalisms. Sometimes you draw these first turn and you have to block with them just to save life. Sometimes you draw them together, which is very rare, but sometimes it does happen. Sometimes you draw it with the Belittle, and that's the blue that you're pitching, and so you don't have another minimum to go search for. I think it happens enough times. There's enough situations that can happen with it, which is why I like to play 2 to be a little safer. Then I play 1 blue Soul Bleed Strike because it's a blue block for 3. And if you play it down and they don't block it, the gains Go Again. So that's the generic overview of the deck, what it's trying to do, how it's trying to work. I think this is the deck you're going to see coming up a lot in Skirmish Season 5. So if you don't understand what is happening inside the deck, how to combat it, what it's trying to do, and what its strengths and weaknesses are, I think you're going to get caught by surprise on possibly even a turn 1 or turn 2 and just get blown out of the water. The deck easily has its max combo turn coming for 35-40 damage if left unchecked. So next you'll see us cover what a possible turn could look like using some of the equipments and the cards that we've selected in the deck. Alright, now we're going to take you through what a turn with Fai's combo can look like. We've set up the deck to where it's as if in simulating this is turn 2. We've been able to successfully get to our turn and survive. Again, this is situationally dependent upon who you're playing, and we're making some very large assumptions here just to illustrate how crazy things can get. But we've been able to survive, not be disrupted, and not have to use any of our equipment to block with. Again, unlikely to happen, but just as illustration purposes. So as the setup, we've blocked with some cards. We have one Phoenix Flame in the graveyard. We've been able to successfully arsenal an Art of War, pretty important piece of the puzzle, especially coming out of Arsenal. And in hand, we have a Mounting Anger, red, a yellow Rising Resentment, a red Blaze Headlong, and a blue Cinderskin Devotion. So we have our resources. We have some connector cards. We even have a starter card, but we're going to probably take a little bit of chances, banking on what's inside of our deck, banking on what we've seen so far. So to start out the turn, we're going to activate our Blossom of Spring as an action to gain a resource. So it gets destroyed. We get the resource. We're going to play our Art of War from Arsenal using our resource that we gained from Blossom of Spring. We're going to choose to banish, I think in this instance, I think it's correct to banish the 1-cost card. All the rest of these cards that we're going to play in the middle here are 0 cost. And we're banking that we're going to draw into a good starter. You could be correct to keep the Mounting Anger as the red starter, but I think we're okay that we're going to draw into another red card, consider our deck is so red heavy. So we're choosing to banish the Mounting Anger as one of the modes in Art of War. We're also going to choose to give +1 attack and defense technically to our attack action cards this turn. So now that we've banished that card, we're going to draw 2 cards from Art of War. And we've drawn into a red starter with Go Again, a Ronin Renegade, and another critical piece of the puzzle that's really going to help amplify this turn, which is going to be Spreading Flames. So there's some tricky things you can try to do with Spreading Flames to get Spreading Flames to even buff itself, but I think we're just going to be pretty straightforward in this turn and start out by going ahead and using that Spreading Flames to kick off the turn. So we're going to play Spreading Flames, we're pitching the blue Cinderskin Devotion, and we are floating 2 resources. Coming in for 4 Go Again, because of Art of War gives +1 to Spreading Flames, and then the Spreading Flames buff will apply later on down the chain once we get far enough down to where our Draconic Chain Links are out pacing our base attacks. So this Spreading Flames coming in for 4. We assume here that this opponent is going to either block for 3 or possibly even take all 4 of the damage, in which case it's going to give us an opportunity to use Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. So after Spreading Flames, again, we assume it hits. We're going to destroy the mask on hit and search for an attack action card with 2 or less base power, banish it, and then we're going to be able to play it this turn. So we're going to leave that there to illustrate that. We're going to go dig in our deck, and we're going to go find a 2 or less base powered attack, and it's going to be Lava Burst. And then we're going to give our deck a shuffle, and this is going to get banished. So we'll set it here knowing that we can play it this turn. This is the Rupture attack that costs 0 and gets +3 if it's played as Chainlink 4 or higher. We're definitely getting Chainlink 4 or higher this turn. So here is an interesting case. So we've played a red card already, so we automatically know that Blaze Headlong is going to gain Go Again from the Spreading Flames, because it's a red card, that is. It's also going to get buffed by Art of War, so this Blaze Headlong is coming in for 5. And actually we'll use some dice here to track the damage and do a quick calculation at the end to see where we end up. So this Blaze Headlong is coming in for 5 Go Again. It doesn't really matter what they do here, whether they block it or they don't block it. The hitting of the Blaze Headlong is unimportant to us. Now we are at Chainlink 3. We're going to be playing Chainlink 3. So this is where we're actually going to use our Rising Resentment, because it's going to get the most benefit and buff off of Art of War and also Spreading Flames, because its base attack is lower than the number of Draconic Chainlinks we now control, which is 3. So Spreading Flames is going to get a +1, and Art of War is going to get a +1. So it's going to come in for 4. 4 Go Again, that is. And if it hits, we can banish a card that costs 2 or less to play it. In this case, that on-hit ability doesn't really affect us here because we only have a Ronin Renegade, which costs 0, so there's no additional on-hit ability gained from this Rising Resentment. It's just a 4 Go Again attack. Now that we control 3 Draconic Chainlinks, we can actually activate Fai here if we wanted, and we can spend 1 less resource to play to activate the ability for each Draconic Chainlink we control. So in this instance, Fai's ability is free, So we're just going to get to go ahead and grab this Phoenix Flame from our graveyard and add it to our hand. Next, we can play this Ronin Renegade. It also gets both buffs from Art of War and Spreading Flames, so this thing's coming in for a hot 5. We still haven't attacked with our Searing Emberblade, and we still haven't played our Lava Bursts and Banish Zone. So next we can play our Phoenix Flame. It gains +1 from its own effect because we control 2 or more Draconic Chain Links. Gains +1 from Spreading Flames and +1 from Art of War, but it also gains a +1 from Tiger Stipe Shukos because it's our second attack with 2 or less base power. So this diddly old Phoenix Flame is now coming in for a grand total of 4. Go again for 0. We're actually going to go ahead and swing our Searing Emberblade, and we're even getting off the mat here because these chain links, the comet chains get so long. We had 2 floating resources. We're spending that to swing our Emberblade because Searing Emberblade is a Draconic attack still, and its base power is less than the number of Draconic chain links I control. It's actually getting a +1 from Spreading Flames because this affects all Draconic attacks, not just attack action cards. So this Searing Emberblade is not only coming for 3, but it's actually coming in for 4. And then to top it all off, we get to go and play our Lava Burst that we banished from our Mask of the Pouncing Lynx earlier in the turn. It gets +3 because it's the 4th or higher chain link that we've played. It comes in for 2 base naturally, so this is 5. +1 from Spreading Flames because, of course, it's less base power than the number of Draconic chain links we control. And also +1 from Art of War. So this guy is coming in for a whopping 7 damage to finish this chain. That is if they survived to get to this point. That is your opponent, that is. So totaling it all up, we got 4 from Spreading Flames, 5 from Blade's Headlong, that's 9. Rise of Resentment is 13, 18, 22, 26, 33 damage. The cards just seemingly come out of nowhere. With Art of War, you're drawing from 2 cards. You're basically going and searching and fetching a card that you want from Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. And you're also grabbing an additional card from the graveyard from Fai's ability, in effect, in that Phoenix Flame. So this is access to 4 additional cards that you wouldn't otherwise have if you didn't have these pieces and you weren't playing this hero. And that's why this combo is so impressive and can just simply come out of nowhere and just really outshine and overpower your opponent. Again, like we said at the beginning of this turn, very ideal scenario here. We're getting both of our big buffs, Art of War and Spreading Flames, so this is unlikely to happen consistent game in and game out of this aggressive of a turn. But getting up into the 20s, the low 20s, mid 20s is very common for Fai to do this on his combo turn. I hope this helped everyone that was looking to possibly play this deck, learn a little bit more about how Fai works, the interactions of the combo pieces, and how much power this deck can have and can really shine. So if you're going to Skirmish Season 5, we wish you luck. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. It really helps the channel out a lot. We appreciate all the support so far. Big shout out to all of our Team Kitchen Fable Patreons. Those mean a lot to us to help us keep going, producing content like this, helping us produce great results at some of the RTNs, ProQuests, and better events. We look forward to seeing everybody out there, and have a good day. Later.